Welcome. You may remember earlier this season, we focused in on Nicholas Cruz, who had gotten the life without parole. That's what happened. That's what happened during the season when jurors in the Parkland case decided to give Nicholas Cruz the life sentence without parole. And since then, we've been focusing on this case like butter. We've heard from the judge. We've even seen someone flipping the bird. We even heard people all sides of the story. But there's something we've not shown you. Tonight, we're going to show you the scars that had happened from one of the victims. And a warning, the video contains sensitive, not suitable for young viewers. So leave the room. If your kids out there, leave the room. Take a look.
The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Can you go ahead and be seated?
How many times you were shot?
At that time, I didn't know. I just felt like one shot.
Right.
But I got 5 times. So
What?
5 times.
5 times?
Yes.
Where were you shot?
And my leg, my other leg, and the back, and over here in the arcing.
Can you show it to us?
Oh yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you. And how many surgeries have you had?
14.
Okay.
So everybody was confused. Everybody just get out of the class. There was like a lot of people in the hallway. Then I decided to go out down to the stairwell. That's when I saw the gun and just closed the door and started running.
Okay, then what did you do?
Then he shot me on my left leg, and then I saw this door like half open. Then I closed it, and then I just lay down there, waiting for everything to stop.
All right, thank you, sir. Your Honor has no further questions.
Alright, thank you, sir. You're excused. Is there any objection? Okay, state 4 and for identification will be received as states 74.
That's just horrible to watch. But when you look at something like this, it just makes you cringe. Which brings us to the sentencing. Now, during the trial, when the sentencing happened, the judge had it because somebody flipped off because the lawyer was removed.
Jumped up to try to tap down.
Let's take a look at the portion. Let's take a look at this. But I can tell you, when we first talked about this, I was like on the edge of my seat dealing with this. Common sense alert. Common sense would tell you this. So I'm going to spoil it for you guys by showing you this, but common sense alert. You don't flip people off ever in a courtroom, especially after this happened. Let's take a look at the portion.
Up to try to tap down that rhetoric. That is the rhetoric that I'm talking about. That is what I'm trying to be very clear on. Jeff, Marcus, the state, they can hide behind their arguments, but we all are witnessing what is occurring in this courtroom.
Which is myself. I'm a judge,
And
and I understand understand that I'm in
Thank you,
charge of
Judge.
the decorum, and I feel that 99% or a great percentage of what has been said has been appropriate. Everybody has maintained decorum, but for a few comments, it's best to just move on as opposed to highlight them.
This is true, Judge, but I am witnessing a building of momentum, and I'm encouraging the court to direct the state to tap down on that momentum so it does not reoccur and it does not become a theme. Thank you, Judge.
Your Honor, for the record, the only thing the state has said to any of these witnesses when they get up is, would they like to say something on behalf of the victim they're representing? There's been no encouraging or inciting, as Mr. Weeks has put on this record. That is a blatant falsehood and a recreation of the record. As far as no objections being made, it's the defense that could have objected. It's not the state's duty to object to their own witnesses when they're testifying.
Okay. Listen, I've already heard. If you have anything else to say, you can put it in writing at a later time. I've heard from both sides more than once. That's gonna be it. I've made my decision. Like I said, 99% of what's been testified to has been appropriate. I do not want to highlight the few things that were said that were perhaps not appropriate, and let's move on.
Judge, I'm asking for 20 seconds next.
You can have as many seconds as you want in writing, and you can put all of your objections in writing. They've been made multiple times from your chief assistant, from Ms. McNeil, and I don't want to hear anything else. I've already heard it. Is there something that has not already been argued?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, exactly what is it?
Judge, before Mr. Shacker took the podium and testified before this court, I wanted to the representative to reflect that both Mr. Marcus and Mr. Satz looked at the statement prior to the reading. And so their implicit adoption of what he was saying was improper arguments. It was improper discourse. And the court should shut
Okay, but what you are doing right now is highlighting something and making more of a spectacle. So if your office in general does not want to facilitate and or incite violence, then we need to just sit down and move on. That's it. There were 18 witnesses, 16 or 18 witnesses that testified today. There was nothing that was said until Ms. McNeil made her point made, and, you know, we're moving on.
But is the court going to do anything about maybe stopping it from happening again?
When these people are upset about specific things that have gone on from that table, like shooting the middle finger up at this court and laughing and joking, Ms. McNeil, be quiet. When these people have sat in this courtroom and watched this behavior from that table, and they want to say that they're not happy about it, what is the problem?
Judge, I have no problem because I have thick skin. But once you bring in my children, I think that's highly improper and speaking of...
I didn't even know you have children. I don't know what you're talking about. Your children? What about your children?
For them to comment on my children is highly improper, and for this court to allow that kind of testimony is also improper.
There was, I don't remember any comments about any children. And if there was, it obviously didn't,
That's enough. You probably all get the picture here. To flip the bird, so and so, blah 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 blah. And our next Throwback Thursday, we're gonna look at the moments that would happen during that trial. That's our next Throwback Thursday. Coming up next, our main focus: critical violations. We did this last season, and it's just probably hit me so much. I want to do it again. We're gonna show you one video that we showed, and a second one that was not showed. We'll be right back. Last season, we talked about critical violations, health code violations. Like if you work at a restaurant, you know some health code violations. The reason why I focused on this is basically because I work at a fast food restaurant. I'm not going to name names, and I know a lot about these critical violations. So tonight, what I want to do is show you this report and another report that I did not show. So here's Diane Sawyer.
They are some of the places we most love to eat, the brand names that beckon us with their all-American cleanliness and the freshness of the food. Take the name Pizza Hut, which not only radiates wholesomeness in the ads, but has employee guidelines stressing careful handling of food. The kind of thing customers expect from, say, this corporately owned Pizza Hut in a suburb south of Nashville, Tennessee. As we said, we came to this store because we had seen inspection reports citing repeated violations in food handling. We applied for work behind the counter. We told them we knew nothing about making pizza. We didn't tell them we were using hidden cameras to help us document what really goes on.
You don't want to ever come here and eat if you don't make it yourself. Oh, yeah.
What did that worker mean? Well, right away we noticed pizza sauce in a bucket on the floor. A dirty floor littered with dough and bags of flour. And when we asked how we should clean the counter where the food is prepared,
Do we need to spray or anything? No.
and speaking of hygiene, look at the condition of this sink for washing hands. And we noticed that even though we're brand new, no one even mentions that Pizza Hut training tape. The one Pizza Hut requires workers see.
It's important to sanitize.
The one which instructs in cleanliness of all kinds and safety. Back at our store, a teenage worker shows us how to use the dough mixing machine. That worker, the one playing with her hair.
Oh, really? No, you're not?
She's right, as the warning label on the mixer reads. Federal law prohibits anyone under 18 from operating the machine.
Wait, oh, don't stick your hand in there. Ow.
Now, watch her scoop up the dough in her arms, crush it into her shirt, and later, when some dough is about to be rolled, we notice...
Ew, there's hair in this.
And by the way, where was the roller for the dough? Well, watch this employee. He drops it on the floor, then picks it up, rubs it off first with his hands, then with his shirt, and then uses it on a pizza for a customer. Another worker at this Pizza Hut has drawn his conclusions.
You would what?
Is this serious stuff?
Yes, this is serious stuff. I think everything that we do, it's all serious. You know, our job is to protect the public's health.
This is Jerry Rowland, head of Nashville's Food Inspection Program, looking at our tapes. Since his department has worked hard to enforce health laws, he was extremely disturbed by the sign that management is not doing its job.
We need commitment, and we need proper training.
And by the way, we decided to check inspection records for all the Pizza Huts in Nashville. And here's what we found. 6 out of 24 Pizza Huts in Nashville have 2-year histories of critical health violations. But the problems our hidden cameras saw with training at that one Pizza Hut were not the only problems in town.
We got no food safety training here either at another restaurant in town. This Shoney's just north of downtown Nashville, also owned by the corporation which says it stresses training. Yet when we specifically asked for some guidelines, we got, well, just call it a crash course.
So do I get any cleanliness training or anything? I mean, just common sense, you know, pick your nose on the line, don't scratch your butt when you're out there.
Okay.
Common sense? Well, look at this. A worker drops some chicken on the floor. We keep our eyes on him, and 1 minute and 54 seconds later, he puts it back in the refrigerator, unwashed. And in another refrigerator, we found uncooked chicken stored right beneath a fan, which we noticed dripping moisture. Trays used to hold raw meat looked dirty, and batter was left out in an encrusted bucket. Perhaps it's no wonder that in the past, this Shoney's has failed 4 out of the last 5 surprise city inspections for violations that include keeping food at dangerous temperatures, like sausage sitting out at 101 degrees, making it a breeding ground for potentially deadly bacteria. And speaking of dangerous germs, there's one more thing the Shoney customers didn't know one of the days when we were there. As they drank from their cups, their glasses, and used their forks and spoons.
No hot water?
No, our tape got burnt.
Yeah, our water heater blew up yesterday. So how do you clean the dishes without hot water? I don't know, I guess they're running and
about 4 or 5 times.
No hot water for the dishes, and possibly potentially harmful germs on the workers' hands.
No wonder I kept trying to wash my hands with hot water.
So if one of your inspectors had seen this and known this, what would have happened?
The permit would have been suspended.
And what about some of the other things we saw in Nashville from workers and management? It may have been a worker at a Pizza Hut who picked up the roller off the floor, and a worker at Shoney's who picked up the chicken and put it back. But here at another restaurant, a Wendy's franchise in a fashionable Nashville neighborhood, watch what the manager does. This is him bending down to pick up a roll off the sticky floor and putting it back in a bag. No wonder one of his workers does the same thing with a cup. And at that same store, don't miss the way the chef picks up the cheese for the hamburgers. Look at this. He licks his fingers not once, but twice to separate the slices. That's right, here's an instant replay. Across town in Nashville, at a restaurant of a different chain, another worker eats at every opportunity. Burgers, soup, fries. And after eating chicken, she then wipes her mouth with a napkin and then wipes her eyes with it. And without washing her hands, as the law requires, she picks up cucumbers which will be served to a customer. And how about this waitress back at that Shoney's restaurant? She seems to think the customer's dessert also belongs to her. She dips into it, licking her fingers not once, but 5 times.
So, acceptable practices here?
No. No.
What's wrong with this? Is it just disgusting to look at, or is it
No. You know, healthy, normal people can carry Staphylococcus aureus type of bacteria in their nasal membranes, and it can get down into the throat and get into saliva.
So you're saying there's not a lot of difference in this and just licking the food?
Oh, yeah, all right. I mean, that should not happen.
And lest you think this is just a problem in Nashville, stop with us at a Dunkin' Donuts in Smithtown, Long Island. In fact, our check of inspection records reveals that 15 out of 33, almost half the Dunkin' Donuts franchises in Suffolk County, Long Island, have been brought to court in the past 2 years for failing to correct health violations. At this Riverhead store, we noticed workers routinely handle ready-to-eat foods with their bare hands, a violation of state law. We wondered if we shouldn't be using something else to handle the food, say gloves.
Not with this. Not with the donuts. Forget it. We'd be here all day.
There was no soap at the hand sinks, this one in need of a good scrubbing. And watch how this worker uses the same fork to scramble a raw egg and then make sandwiches. She's risking something called cross-contamination, since that fork could be transferring dangerous bacteria from the egg into the sandwiches.
Bacteria grows, you ingest it, you become ill. It's no secret.
Ernest Denda runs Eastern Long Island's inspection program. And before we leave Dunkin' Donuts, there was something else we noticed about this worker and her hygiene. After taking care of, let's say, a personal itch, we never saw her wash her hands. Rather, she played with her hair, buttered and then ate a bagel, and made change for a customer.
Obviously, that individual should not be working in a food place. If the public deserves better.
So we went back to Nashville to try to talk to the store personnel at Shoney's, Wendy's, Pizza Hut.
Can we speak with the manager? You don't want to talk. I can't see her at all.
All referred us to the corporations, which in turn sent us letters. So did Dunkin' Donuts. And we'll tell you what they said later.
Now, let's get to the common sense of things, which brings us to our... You know what it's time for? Common sense alert. As I pointed out, I work at a restaurant. And I can tell you, after watching this, I felt angry. I wanted to jump on the TV, get her hand out of her ass, get her arm out from scratching her ass, drag that woman into that sink, make her wash her damn hands, drag that person by the throat, and made him rinse off that damn roller. That's what common sense would tell you. We need training, we need programs, we need training for management. That's all we need. Now, this is some years ago, but today we have training. But there's still a lot more. When we come back, guess who else is coming? It ain't your neighbor, it ain't your friends, but it starts with an R and a T and starts with an M and ends with an E. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Stay with us. Make no mistake about this. Mice, rodents, they can carry bacteria, they can carry E. coli, salmonella, if you don't have the proper training. So what else can be done? Let's look at those same restaurants that we've seen and see what happens. Once again, here's Diane Sawyer.
Here we are back at this Wendy's in the Green Hills area of Nashville. It was morning and we hadn't even started our first day of work when we noticed something moving on the wall.
Is that a road track there? Oh, yeah, no, we got a lot of.
Their solution to the problem seemed a little odd, placing roach motels, the traps that attract roaches, right next to the salad bar, though out of view of the customer. That's a roach on the salad bar right there.
You either knock them off, they kill them, or you just go on.
So this worker uses a rag to knock the roach off the salad bar, but misses.
You try to just let it go on its way. Now, this is what the manager told us. You don't try to kill it, don't try to kill it in front of the customers or anything.
As for the food, signs on the wall warn workers not to throw anything out without asking permission first, to the consternation of this worker.
I shouldn't have to wait till nobody brings them back to tell me it's spoiled, you know.
Until someone brings them back, like this customer.
I need one of these that's a little fresher. This one seems to have died.
But the lettuce wasn't the only thing that died. We noticed something else in the salad bar, in the strawberries.
There's a fly in there, look at him.
Now, how did he get in there? He went there this morning.
And what happens next?
You think it's okay to put it back after there was a fly? Why?
You throw him out.
Why?
Gosh, dear, they hollered. The Holocaust.
Is that acceptable?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am, that's not acceptable.
But what about the cost, though? If it's a strain for them?
It's too bad.
And Jerry Rowland, Director of Inspections in Nashville, says roaches are not an inevitable and acceptable fact of life. And yet, when we checked in again 2 months later at that Wendy's, there was still a roach motel by the salad bar. And if roaches and flies are a potential source of bacteria and contamination, there's another kind of, well, non-paying customer that comes to eat at some of the places we worked.
Back in New York, a Dunkin' Donuts inspection record and yet another Long Island franchise caught our attention. In it, a customer had complained that a roach was baked into a munchkin. It triggered an inspection. No roaches were found. But inspectors did note that several large bags of donut mix had holes gnawed through them, with mouse droppings in the mix.
And when we were working at this Riverhead Dunkin' Donuts, we saw literally dozens of droppings on a trip to the storeroom. A storeroom stocked with donut icing and filling, and a box that had holes gnawed through. And remember, mice can carry dangerous bacteria like salmonella in their droppings and their urine. We informed the manager of Dunkin' Donuts what we'd seen.
Oh, I know. We got them all over.
You have them all over?
We got traps all over.
Do you want me to show you?
No, I know where they are. Don't show me nothing. I know. One runs over my feet all the time.
But when it comes to restaurant rodents, what we heard at this Denny's in northern Nashville still tops it all.
Instead of catching the mice I usually catch, I just stomped over to death in there.
What?
This is the chef talking.
Instead of catching it, I just stomped it. See how see it in there?
What?
Yeah, instead of catching it. See, I used to catch him in the bag, but he was underneath the bag, so I just stomped it.
He almost makes it sound part of the job description.
So I used to just catch like 5 or 6 a night in a trash can, pull it out real quick, and get on the ends and tie
Maybe, but we saw one of his trophies later that day, mysteriously being stored in the utility closet.
Where was it? Which one?
And the idea of stomping 5 or so of them a night and putting them in a closet?
That's not an effective pest control program by any stretch of the imagination.
You should know the 5 companies at which we work declined to be interviewed, but they all sent letters saying that what we saw is not representative or typical, reminding viewers that they spent a great deal of money on food safety and training. All of them said they had dispatched experts to the restaurants to take swift corrective action. And several of the companies in their letters thanked us for bringing the problems to their attention. As we said, there are a lot of good, clean restaurants out there with nearly perfect inspection records. Now, how can you tell the difference? There's not a lot you can do to avoid unsanitary practices at restaurants, which is why we brought in hidden cameras. But the next time you go into a restaurant, you can look around. If the floors look dirty, if the restrooms are dirty, it may be a sign of poor cleanliness standards. Hot food should be hot, and cold food should be served cold to kill bacteria or prevent it from growing. And you can ask to see the inspection reports. Many areas require them to be available.
So what's the common sense here? I mean, if you decide I'm gonna work at Mickey D's or wherever, you gotta have proper training and you gotta proper training, cleanliness, and so on. As customers, we need to make sure that the restaurant we go to is squeaky clean. And if you think this is over, if you're shaking your head saying, "Thank God this is over," don't shake your head just yet. Coming up, Lee Thompson looks into dirty dining. This time's in our fast food restaurants. I was surprised when I watched this several years ago. Don't go away. For those joining us, this Throwback Thursday is all about what we talked about behind the counter. That's what I focused on last season as we looked into restaurants that have poor cleanliness and poor inspections from years ago. But the tables have turned. Now another look. One of the videos I did not show you is this one. All about the dirty dining. Here's Lee Thompson.
Verdict pick order when you are.
Any bacon cheeseburger that looks... Bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit.
We're a nation fueled by fast food. Burgers and fries, tacos, fried chicken. It's hot, tasty, and easy. And with millions and millions of meals sold every day, most of us just assume it's all clean and safe.
Thank you.
But when it's not, it can be devastating.
It's the worst sickness I've ever had in my life.
After eating at this McDonald's in Irwin, Tennessee last March, 100 people became violently ill. Some ended up in the hospital, dehydrated, even hallucinating.
Just the stomach cramps alone would curl you in two.
I was just laying on the bathroom floor screaming. It almost killed us.
The Centers for Disease Control says sick restaurant employees very likely contaminated food with a virus, although McDonald's disputes that. Meanwhile, after eating at this KFC in Colorado, Gianni Vallata was infected with a dangerous salmonella bacteria. His mother says he almost died.
His kidneys weren't working. I mean, there's just no words to explain how bad it actually was.
Was there any way to prevent it? Well, had Natalie Vallata checked, she'd have learned health inspectors had cited and fined that KFC just a few months earlier.
If I would have known that they had several health violations, I would not have eaten there.
But who has time to check health inspection reports before they go to a fast food restaurant? Virtually no one. So Dateline decided to do it. The biggest 10 chains have 75,000 restaurants. We couldn't look at all of them, so we hired a survey company to choose a sample. 100 restaurants from each chain, 1,000 in all, spanning 38 states. We then collected and examined local health inspection reports for the last year and a half on each of those 1,000 restaurants. Some were inspected just once, some more often during that period. And tonight, in a first-of-its-kind national investigation, Dateline is going to use these health inspection reports to find out which fast food chains in our survey are the cleanest and the dirtiest. What we found may do more than surprise you. Some of the horror stories in Dateline's Dirty Dining Survey just might turn your stomach. In Chicago, in a Wendy's, inspectors found a dead rodent decomposing on a rat trap. At a California Taco Bell, a woman bit into her taco only to find chewing gum.
Can I help you here?
An inspector in Texas found a worm in a Wendy's salad.
I can help you.
At a Hardee's in Florida, a customer was handed a cup of soda with blood dripping from it. There was blood on her change as well. And the list goes on. A cockroach in someone's soda, a sharp metal object in a man's sandwich. But as disgusting as those things are, they're rare. Experts say the things you can't see can be even more hazardous. So what can be done about all this? Well, health inspectors tell us it's not that easy to just close down a restaurant. And they say their power is limited when it comes to even imposing heavy fines. What they can do is cite restaurants for what is known as a hazardous or critical violation. Caroline Smith DeWall is with the Center for Science in the Public Interest, a food safety watchdog group.
A critical violation is something that happens in a restaurant that may result in the food becoming contaminated.
By definition, is a critical violation something that could make you sick?
Yes.
Critical violations are a benchmark for judging a restaurant's cleanliness. Most food regulations mandate they be corrected immediately. They are the only type of violations we counted in our survey. Things like this: handling ready-to-eat food with bare hands or unwashed hands, undercooked meat, improper food holding temperatures, sick employees preparing food, and a host of other potentially hazardous problems. What may shock you is just how many restaurants had critical violations. More than 60% of all fast food restaurants in our sample had at least one critical violation in the last year and a half. How many total violations did each chain have? Here comes Dateline's Dirty Dining Survey. It's a top 10 list where no fast food restaurant wants to come in number one. Starting with the chain with fewest critical violations. At number 10, Taco Bell. The 100 Taco Bells we sampled had the fewest total critical violations, 91, making it the best performer in our survey. But it was not without problems. Recurring violations include dirty food preparation counters and rodent droppings. Number 9, the Golden Arches. The 100 McDonald's we looked at came in with a total of 136 critical violations. Some didn't have a trained and certified food handler on the job required by law in many states. It's that important.
Absolutely. We can't have food prepared by people who don't know that you can't combine raw meat with cooked meat, with people who don't understand the importance of proper temperatures in food preparation.
Number 8, KFC. The 100 KFCs we sampled tallied up 157 critical violations. 2/3 of the finger-licking good restaurants had at least one critical violation. Remember, it was at a KFC, the health department says, little Gianna Vallata picked up salmonella poisoning last year. We've now learned that another child was also sickened there, and the same restaurant has since been cited for 3 more critical violations. While the Vallatas have settled a lawsuit against the restaurant, a lawyer for the owner of the franchise contends the salmonella cases did not originate there. With even more health citations. Number 7, Subway. The 100 Subways we looked at totaled 160 critical violations. A recurring problem at the sandwich chain, improper food holding temperatures.
What does that mean? That means that bacteria in the food that's already cooked can start to grow And it can reach levels that can cause serious illness for someone who consumes it.
With a few more critical violations at number 6, Jack in the Box. The 100 Jack in the Box restaurants had a total of 164 critical violations. This Ventura, California Jack in the Box was a trouble spot. It had several customer complaints of foodborne illness. Number 5, Dairy Queen. The 100 DQs we examined totaled 184 total critical violations. This DQ in Hampton, Virginia rang up a number of critical violations last summer for grime and debris and an inaccurate thermometer. When Dateline went back recently to take a look, the restaurant invited us in and showed it had fixed the problem. Getting up there now, number 4, Hardee's. The 100 Hardee's tallied 206 critical violations. Again and again, inspectors cited the presence of insects and rodents.
Rodents and cockroaches are gross, but they can also spread germs from food to food and carry germs into a restaurant.
Last May, this restaurant was cited for not having soap in the employee's sink, yet inspectors found employees handling ready-to-eat food with their bare hands. Number 3, Wendy's. 100 Wendy's had 206 critical violations. That's the same as Hardee's, but more Wendy's restaurants had violations. So Wendy's is number 3 in our Dateline Dirty Dining Survey. At this Wendy's in Mesa, Arizona, inspectors noted repeated problems with food holding temperatures, mice droppings on the shelves, bare hand food contact, and one foodborne illness complaint. But with even more violations than Wendy's. Number 2, Arby's. The 100 Arby's had 210 critical violations. The roast beef specialist had recurring violations for improper hand washing and employees handling ready-to-eat foods with their bare hands.
Clearly, if the person isn't washing their hands or using other sanitation practices, they can really make people very sick.
So which fast food chain finished number 1 on Dateline's Dirty Dining list? It's Burger King. The 100 Burger Kings we sampled rang up a whopping 241 total critical violations. Health inspectors cited this Virginia Burger King for 14 separate critical violations. Employees not washing their hands, uncovered food in the fridge, grime and debris found on this ice chute and on the drink machine at the drive-thru window. We observed this employee scooping ice into a cup with his bare hands, an apparent critical violation. So what's the big picture? The 1,000 restaurants we sampled totaled 1,755 critical violations, and 613 restaurants were cited at least once. That's more than 60% with problems inspectors consider potentially hazardous to your health. Still, in an industry where millions of meals are served, is it unrealistic to assume that a fast food restaurant would get a clean bill of health every single time a health inspector came in the door?
A fast food restaurant should be monitoring their own critical violations every single day. They shouldn't wait for a government inspector to tell them if they've got a problem.
Steve Grover of the National Restaurant Association represents fast food restaurants. He's a former health inspector himself. Does Dateline survey concern you?
It concerns me. I do not find critical violations acceptable.
Why are they there in the first place?
Because no one's perfect. I tell the executives every day, 99.9% is not good enough when it comes to food safety.
What about 60%?
60% is not good enough.
Grover argues as long as critical violations are being corrected promptly,
then the system is working. Inspectors are doing their job and the restaurants are following the advice of the inspectors as they come through.
Most fast food restaurants are owned by individuals, but most chains say they inspect every restaurant that has their name on it. In a letter to Dateline, Burger King says it is extremely disappointed by the findings. We want to assure our guests we will quickly investigate and take immediate and appropriate actions. The president of Wendy's writes, one critical violation on a health inspection report is one too many. And Hardy says, we must always do better. Any critical deficiency is unacceptable, which is why we address them immediately. McDonald's says no one cares more about operating clean, safe restaurants than McDonald's. And all are unanimous in agreeing with KFC that food safety is our #1 priority. The Velladas, whose little boy almost died, hope that's true.
Every single time I go to a fast food restaurant, there's that doubt in the back of my mind that they could get sick. Every single time.
Now, I didn't want to show this because I'm still working at a fast food restaurant, but the whole purpose of this show is to put in common sense to people out there that want to own a restaurant or people who want to work there. People going to be saying to me, blah, 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 so-and-so, this and that, so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. I understand. But the whole point, if you hear this alarm, you see me raise my hand. It's common sense. So if you're gonna plan on working at a fast food restaurant that you like, know this. You need to be trained. You need to have a food handler's permit. You need to know what to do and what not to do. You need to wash your hands every 20 seconds. Every 20 seconds. It takes somebody like me to know to wash my hands for 20 seconds. It doesn't take that long. If you watch me when we did COVID episodes, I told you guys all the time, wash your hands. 20 seconds. It don't take that damn long. It don't take that damn long. Now there is one ad that I would like to show you, but we're gonna hold off. We're probably gonna hold off on that until probably next Thursday, or we could do it on a Friday. Yeah, we're gonna hold that to next Thursday. So that's on a Thursday. But coming up, going back to the janitor story, which I like the most, and I'll explain why. Stay with us. Now a story that we focused on last year. Back during our third season, during the pandemic, we focused on 12 and 14-year-olds. Can you just believe it? 12 and 14-year-olds. They have a shootout with the police. What is this? What is this? Like, what is this? Grand Theft Auto? You think it's real? If you don't believe me, take a look.
We're getting our first look at the 12-year-old boy who cops say opened fire at deputies along with a 14-year-old girl. Today he was in court, and considering his age, it's hard to fathom the charges he's facing. Many news outlets have decided to show his face, even though he's a minor, because of the seriousness of the incident and the charges. Les Trent reports.
He looks like he could be in the principal's office for some silly prank at school. But this 12-year-old is in huge trouble with the law.
You're also charged with attempted first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer.
Travis O'Brien and a 14-year-old girl are accused of opening fire on cops during a 30-minute shootout.
They were coming out to kill cops.
The 12-year-old did not speak during today's hearing, at which the judge referred to him as Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Cops say the boy and the girl ran away from a home for troubled youth. They broke into a house and found 2 shotguns, an AK-47, and a handgun. When cops arrived, the girl reportedly said to the boy, "I'm gonna roll this down like GTA," referring to the violent video game Grand Theft Auto.
Shooting out the rear window toward my direction.
Deputies ducked for cover behind trees.
They just busted out the window in the back. Stand by. Female has a shotgun in her hand. Stand by. Put the gun down now! She's got the AK and the shotgun. She's wrapping it around the top of her neck.
Then came the stunning realization that they were being fired upon by children.
Hey guys, just hold behind on cover. Let's not shoot these kids, man. Let's just hold on. Take our time.
10-4, they're shooting at me. She's re-racking around inside the shotgun.
Alright, let's not engage them anymore. Let's not challenge them. Just hold behind hard cover. We're just gonna hang out here.
You can hear one officer praying it doesn't end badly.
Don't let me do this. Don't do this.
You can hear the restraint of the deputies pleading not to have to use their guns.
Cops say the girl, seen in this photo given to the news media by her father, was shot and wounded when she refused orders to drop the shotgun and opened fire from behind a parked car.
You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at least 10 bullet holes.
30 seconds later, young Travis O'Brien came out of the house with his hands raised.
They shot through the bedroom window. They shot from the garage door. I mean, this is like Bonnie and Clyde.
Now these juvenile Bonnie and Clyde desperados have to face the music.
You're also charged with attempted first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer.
I gotta say, after doing 6 seasons, after 6 years of doing this broadcast, over 600 episodes, I can't imagine this happening. These 2 juveniles, what did they learn to shoot from? Their parents? What is this? Ethan Crumley speaking through to the kids before the Oxford school shooting? I'd rather deal with that than deal with this kid. I'd rather eat Ghost Pepper Ranch sauce while this 12-year-old is hitting me with the controller. I'd rather read an inspection report while making Dairy Queen ice cream. I'd rather drown in pickle juice. I'd rather eat ghost pepper wings while pleading not to shave my head bald. I'd rather I don't know, what would I rather do? I'd rather be I'd rather be doing cocaine with a bear while he's attacking me. I'd rather eat cocaine and shit it out for a fat mama. I'd rather drive without a license while flipping off a police officer. I'd rather play Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on PlayStation 2. I'd rather be talking about more education on this Throwback Thursday. I'd rather drown in smartware. I'd rather be talking to Miss Seeds, from my old teacher Miss Seeds, and talk about this. I'd rather piss a cactus out of my dick. 6 years of doing this. I'd rather press my face against a hippopotamus's butt while I'm picking peaches with my feet and using the peaches to grill with my toes holding the spatula while the hippo is taking a shit on my face. I'd rather have sex with the sticky bandits while pouring syrup on them. And last but not least, I'd rather tell This Is Your Mama Joe right now. Your mama's so nasty, she sucked your daddy dick and came in here and kissed you goodnight. That's what I'd rather do than focus on this kid. We'll be right back. Coming up on Friday, south of the border. Can you imagine going to Mexico for a weekend vacation and all of a sudden you get beaten up by taxi people? It's like what happened to these people you're going to see in tomorrow's report. South of the border. That's it for Throwback Thursday. I'll see you next time for Throwback Thursday, and I'll see you next time for Give Me Back Friday. We're almost here at YouTube. As LeVar Burton always says, I'll see you next time.